I'm DJ,
And I'm Andrew,
and welcome to One Shots Tavern.
a TTRPG podcast where we seek out new ways to tell your stories through different systems and games. Today, we're talking about my next project, Out of Orbit. I will be putting it out as a part of February 2025's Zine month over on Kickstarter, and it is a troupe survival TTRPG that utilizes my Entwine system that I developed for Battle School. And there's a lot to talk about. I'm excited to get into it.
So, jumping right in, what is it? The code name, right?
Oh, yeah.
When you first started coming up with this, because I think it is a very important way to talk about it. Lost, comma, in space. And so essentially combining the two ideas of the show Lost, one of the greatest shows of all time, not even debatable. If you're listening, you're like, I didn't like it. Well, you have an opinion. It's okay. It's okay to have wrong opinions. And then, of course, Lost in Space, Danger Will Robinson. So tell me about the themes.
Yeah, so Orbit. I like to start with the touchstones. Like, obviously you've referenced, especially with Lost. Like, Lost is kind of my goal for it. In defense of Lost, let me just I gotta say one thing, okay? If I didn't like meandering narratives that ask more questions than they answer, I wouldn't play TTRPGs.
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
So get over it and enjoy. So Lost is kind of my narrative inspiration and framework for what I wanted to design. I like watching a show and there being a large cast of characters and getting to know these characters in different ways, dive deep into their backstories, see how they're involved with one another, see who they're becoming versus who they were. And and there being something maybe hidden and below the surface and a secret about their past. Yeah. And the way that, if you're not familiar with Lost, the way that they do that is they take a bunch of people, they crash land them on an island, and they tell you nothing about who they were before, except through flashbacks. They kind of take a character for each episode, and they do flashbacks to their life before. They trickle out mysteries. They start to weave a lot of these people's pasts together. The narrative of who they were versus who they are kind of unfolds simultaneously, and it's beautiful. It really is.
But not only that, you also get that juxtaposition where like you're seeing what would have happened if they never crash landed. And
that's later. But
it's cool. All right.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things. This takes place in your universe, and for those of you who don't know about it, Frontier Space, it is still the Battle School universe. It is a universe that I got to play in with our friends and got to really experience with Cypher campaign, and I love it. There are really cool things. There is weird alien technology that isn't alien. It's human, but like forgotten. Which is really cool. So that's like the Cobalt stuff, and then you have the Wraith, which I love the concept of the Wraith.
The Wraith, for those of you that aren't familiar with what I wrote in Battle School, the Wraith is take Venom from Spider-Man. Make him significantly less, because Venom is the unification of the two of them. So take the symbiote from Spider-Man and really make him more of like a hive mind, more animalistic kind of instinct, and more strictly desiring, to push evolution. So
propagate,
it's like raw,
survive, and grow.
Yeah, it's like raw. It's like cancer, honestly. Like make more of self and become stronger. And so it is a virus that is all over Frontier Space. It is on many of the different worlds, and basically it is a symbiote that has bonded to many of the life forms, both flora and fauna, and changed them into something more threatening. Now that is a problem for humanity, because as far as anybody is aware, no human has ever achieved symbiosis with the Wraith, it has entirely just been catastrophic where they lose control and they basically are zombie virus and turned into some horrific thing. And you'll see in the art for the game, there's some horrific things. I have one piece right now that I've lovingly named Snuggle. He's got a bunch of arms and you don't want to hug, I promise. But yeah, so like it just explores kind of transhumanist ideas and how the idea of pushing evolution further and the problematic sides of it, and how like eugenics has been used in our own past, and like I kind of am fascinated with that horrible fact. I'm not pro eugenics, let's be very clear. I explore things that are interesting to me, not that I support them. But yeah, so there's a lot of weird stuff going on. So we touch on cyberpunk things, we touch on like biopunk, bio horror things, and that's all just kind of in the background in the setting. The world that you're landing on primarily is weird, and I say landing, you're crash landing on it. Is a weird place. We don't really know a lot about it. It's not on any star charts, and it isn't orbiting a star. It should be a dead planet, and it should be barren and cold. It's not, and it's weird. So basically, let me walk you through how I'm writing the game, as well as like how you will run your first session.
Right, because it's going to be different than Battle School, because it is a different environment. So I'm really interested. And unlike
Battle School is great for one shots. It really, really is. You can definitely run a campaign with it. It's a lot of fun. I would say most people will probably run it as a one shot. Right. This doesn't really tailor itself for a one shot. You could probably do 2 or 3 and have fun. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily run it as a one shot. I'm sure I'll figure out how to demo it quicker and have fun, but I really think this is one that I would love it if you sunk your teeth in and ran a campaign. But basically, you start out in the crash scene. That is where the table starts. There's no preparation for the GM or the players at this point. You sit down, crash happens. The spaceship has crash landed on this world. You know, we get a quick narration of like what happened on the ship. Like there were blackouts, maybe people were in stasis pods, that kind of stuff. And then boom, we're in the crash. Like there are people all over. There are people screaming, crying, dying, bleeding out, trying to get away from wreckage. Potential reactor might go off, all that kind of stuff. And the camera, if you will, becomes, you know, the thing we begin to follow, because this game, though you will do character creation, is troupe style. You don't own these characters. We are all acting both as the audience and the director of the show. So it is a GM'd game, but it's very GM full at the same time, where we're all really working on weaving this narrative. So that camera pans over to our first character that needs to be made, and you roll. You're going to roll on a background. You're going to roll on a hobby. You're going to roll on like a character flaw. And then this is the fun one. You're going to roll on an injury. So, for example, a very important thing is a lot of the backgrounds are on a knockout system. So if you roll, DJ, and you're generating the first character, and you roll, and the background you get is a doctor, okay? You are a medical doctor. And then you roll, you know, hobby. Maybe he likes to do skeet shooting. Cool. Now he can use guns. And then you roll on a character flaw. Oh, he's selfish. Okay, cool. Now we roll on the injury that he currently is dealing with. At best, he's untouched, right? That's your natural 20 kind of moment. At worst, your natural 1 is he's dead.
Right.
So the doctor's dead. And you don't have a doctor, right? So like even in character creation, there's moments for weird storylines to kind of start, right? Like, oh no, we don't have a pilot, and maybe we end up finding a plane at some point to get off this rock. Nobody knows how to fly, right? So it creates new and interesting problems. But we follow the camera, and then each player just generates one of these characters as the camera goes to the next person. Everybody will get a chance to probably create 2 characters to start. And And what I really think will be fun for people is, much like the show Lost, there's a bunch of other survivors that we don't ever meet on the show. Yeah. They just are extras.
They're just background characters. Yeah.
You have a pool of other survivors that you can generate later at any point if you need to, because there are other people that just aren't part of our narrative for that moment, and later on you might need one. So that's another interesting thing. This game is a survival game, so it is about managing resources. So actually, if you've just came off listening to DJ's episode, I'm also dealing in resources of people. Because you have to manage your food, your water, the morale of the camp, the materials that you're gathering.
The Fallout 4 settlement system.
Exactly. So you're doing all of that.
Which, despite some people's opinions, was my favorite part about Fallout 4. I probably spent over 200 hours just building things and managing supply lines because I have autism.
You'll love this. It's not that granular, I promise. Which kind of leads me to where the game goes after that and some of my touchstones. So my game touchstones are Band of Blades, which is a Forged in the Dark game.
Nice. Yeah.
And Microscope. And if you know both of those games well, it's a weird combination. So I'm going to explain why. So Band of Blades utilizes a camp and mission cycle, which is important for this game. We're kind of doing a troupe thing where you're rotating as players. Yeah, I'm going to use this character for this mission. I'm going to use this character for this mission. And you rotate those out mission over mission. And then we come back to the camp. We resolve actions that were performed out on the mission, get resources back. And then we see like what happened at the camp while we were away. This is an opportunity for players to, they get to embody the different hubs. So you might be over medical. Another person might be over engineering. Another person might be over, science or whatever. And then another person might be over command. Each of you has a resource die that they get to roll based on certain events. And you're trying to keep that resource die as large of a die size as possible. So as you are being forced to make resource rolls for whatever your hub is, it can get smaller. So if you start with a D12 right now and you're rolling for command, say that we roll on a table and it's like, boom, there's infighting in the camp while we're out on a mission, roll a resource die for everybody that's coming back from the mission that's wounded.
Right. Yeah.
So boom, we've got 3 people that are wounded. That's bad for morale. I got to roll my D12 3 times. First time I roll it, I get a 3. My D12 becomes a D10. I roll it again. I roll above a 3 for the other 2, and we're good. But basically, anytime you roll a 1, 2, or 3 on any die size, it gets smaller. And then if you get it all the way down to a D4, you can run out of that resource. And that is very, very bad for your camp.
No, that's really cool. Have you ever, it's funny, sounds like a sidetrack, but it's not. Have you ever played the game State of Decay 2?
I have not.
Okay. Look into the randomized character features of State of Decay 2 because they operate in a very similar way as far as like being good or bad for a resource based off of their weird backgrounds. There are all sorts of weird backgrounds in State of Decay. There's hundreds of them. But like one of them is like runs marathons and therefore they have like extra stamina for running. Or like, one of them has to do with like getting sick or like the great immune system kind of thing, and so they're less susceptible to getting the plague or the blood plague. And so with State of Decay 2, if you look into the way their randomized characters work together for a settlement, that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting.
That's awesome
for your thing.
I'll check it out.
It's really in depth. I love games that do this. I mentioned Fallout.
What I think is going to be interesting is each of the hubs that players get to take control of has kind of, in a way, their own mini game that hopefully never feels like bookkeeping, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be very like medical, right? Like people are coming back from a mission. They likely took some wounds. you have the ability to spend resources to heal those wounds. That's not really minigame. That's just spending resources. But you can, during the preparatory phase for a mission, you can like make some stims or like med packs, and like you're able to do that kind of stuff. And so as you level up the medical tent or whatever, the hub, you might be able to make more powerful ones or different ones. And like that is where the progression system in the game goes. Characters, the survivors, don't level up. They will grow deeper in their backstory, which is my segue to the next thing that I'm hacking. I am using Microscope. If you're not familiar with Microscope, oh my gosh, we need to do an episode on it. It's such a cool game. I even got to talk to and run some things by Ben Robbins, the creator of Microscope. He's also just a very influential person in the RPG space. Look his stuff up. Very, very phenomenal stuff. But Microscope is a world building game. Weird, we're not doing world building in this, but in it, you're able to zoom all the way in on your timeline as you're building it out to create these scenes and moments inside of the timeline to kind of build some drama, and it's handled through an improv scene. What we're doing in Out of Orbit is much like in the show Lost, there are flashbacks. And so if we're out on a mission, we're getting ready to climb up a cliff face, and you're playing as a character, and there's absolutely nothing on your character sheet to say that you would be good at climbing this cliff face. But like you go like, I mean, it kind of fits the vibe. I kind of want that to be true about him.
Yeah.
This is a moment where we get to add that to the character sheet.
And so you flash back,
doing a flashback.
Big story moment. This
so the flashback, the flashback is functionally you as a player getting to go, okay, I'm gonna kind of set up a GM moment, but then we're gonna play to find out the answer to a question. So all you have to do is you say, we are flashing back to a time where I'm with my dad and we're rock climbing. We're on, a desert planet, and, we've got a guide with us and this other person, blah, blah, blah. You set all that stuff up, but then you have to ask a question. And the question is the whole point of the flashback. And the question in this instance would be, why was this the last time I ever spoke to my dad?
Yeah.
Okay. So in that, we get to say, well, we know that this is the last time he ever speaks to his dad. And we get to play to find out the answer to that. That could be we got in a fight. That could be, he slips and falls in the middle of it. That could be we find out that the dad's terminally ill. It might be a grudge gets struck up in an argument. So like there's so many ways for you to figure out what is going to happen. And then after that, we zoom back into our present day moment. You get to roll a little bit better on what you're doing. And now you have a new detail in your character sheet that's actually very rich and full.
Absolutely. That's
for
really
you to
cool.
pull on for a diversity of things. So when you're going to roll on anything, it's like, oh, well, we are actually tying a lot of knots in that. So maybe when I'm crafting something at camp later, I can use that same tag on my sheet to make that roll better as well.
That's really cool, and builds out these really organic characters that have real moments. Like my dad says that the best conversation he ever had with his dad was the one where his dad had a heart attack and dropped dead. And so like, but that is a huge character thing, right? He was a bastard, right? My dad knows it. I know it. My grandma knows it. And so, but like, it's a huge part of who my dad is. And so like, you're giving these characters, or these players, a chance to kind of like build out who they are throughout it in an episodic fashion that really kind of builds a narrative, like a show. And I love that.
And I also love that you're not going to own this character, right? So the kind of forced narrative conceit of how this game works is a survivor is not going on a back-to-back mission. So they're going to come back from this mission. Maybe we're climbing up a cliff face to get some food or whatever. Yeah. And they're going to rest. Right. Like, because they have to.
Yeah.
And the assumption is there's plenty of missions going on at any given time. There's like an A and a B team, stuff like that. But you come back to camp, we do another mission, and then we do another mission. And that third mission, that same character gets to go back out if, a player chooses to play as them. but maybe I fleshed out some backstory stuff for one mission, and then you have him a different one, and you explore a whole nother side of this character because you saw me play him, and you're like, I have ideas for where this could go in his past, and I want to do stuff with it.
Right.
And you get to, and I get to do the same thing with characters that you make or you manipulate. Which brings up something I love to bring up about the flashbacks. It's also going to be a very interesting tool for, I don't want to say it's conflict, but basically the moments of narrative messiness that happen at the table when we're working together and collaborating on narrative.
Yeah.
So it's the whole yes and thing. So if you make a character that's like the most lawful good cop that would never do anything wrong, and then the next session somebody plays that character and shoots somebody in the head cold blood, you go, hold on, what?
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't make any sense. And then rather than it being like this weird fight or like, no, that can't happen, I made him, he doesn't work like that, we go, why did he do that?
Right.
And then we have a flashback to add justification for why he did what he did. And now we're having like kind of weird non-linear cooperative narrative that we get to now realize, oh, that person that he just killed in cold blood is from his backstory, and there was a reason for why he did what he did. Maybe this is the beginning of a dark turn for him where he's now crossed that line, and it's a big deal, right? Like, there are moments like that that are allowed to happen that normally we don't. Things can happen off screen, and then we can cut back to them later, which is exciting.
That's awesome. It's so funny. You and I are gonna have to sit down, and we're gonna have to play State of Decay 2. It's on Games Pass. Because I think you're going to, because you're gonna be shocked at how much some of the camp stuff is something you can draw major inspiration from.
That's cool.
But like, gosh, I'm so excited. So tell me about the product, right? Tell me about the rewards that
this may be different than what you may be fishing for. So I had a lot of exciting ideas about what I was going to do with it. I'm keeping it simple.
Yep.
I'm cutting it down to just the book for now, and we'll see how it goes. I have some ideas for potential new rewards to tack on later in the campaign. But really the way I see it is I want to make sure that I get a killer book out, and then in the near future, like down the road, potentially look at a deluxe edition as a separate Kickstarter. There were things about Battle School that really blew my budget, and it really came down to letting scope creep get in there. And I preach being good at scope creep. I'm not. I still
because
dabbling.
you want cool things.
I want to make cool stuff.
You want to make cool stuff. No, absolutely. And here's the thing. Eventually you're going to reach a point with Entwine where you're like, this is the penultimate Entwine. Like, let's go back. Let's do a remaster of how Battle School works. Let's go back and do a remaster of how Out of Orbit works. Because it's such a versatile system that you can build a ton off of.
I think Entwine will probably end up as modular, which is weird because I don't really know how to do that. But I've already made serious changes to it between what you're designing and what it was when it came out through Battle School and where I'm going with it, just even with the dice resolution. But the round DC is really the main mechanic. And so it's like everything other than that is flexible. And so I'm excited to mess with it a little bit. The hope is to put out the book. It's going to be a flat bound, around 100 pages. And cover will probably be in color, and then the inside's all going to be black and white. The art style I went with this time is similar to what I did for Battle School, but it is leaning much more heavily into one of my favorite artists, Mike Mignola, the artist and creator of Hellboy. So I'm not doing pixel art this time. I wanted to do a more organic look than just squares, even though it's still sci-fi. It's lots of landscape.
The monsters, the just all of that side of it lends itself a lot more to that.
Well, and Battle School was literally like you're playing with a simulation, so
video game
really
makes sense.
fit the vibe. It less so with an exploration situation. I mean, I could go into like Oregon Trail vibes, but like, that's not what I'm going for right now. So I'm really excited about the art. I'm going to say the stuff that makes people annoyed with me, but like, as somebody who has never really fashioned themselves as an illustrator, I have, through Battle School and in more recent months, like really been pushing myself to understand like co-opting somebody's style and like learning from it and like trying to get good at it. I did not expect to feel so comfortable trying out my own version of Mike Mignola's art, and I love it. It's a lot of fun. I can work really quickly, and the spreads that I'm already working on for the book are turning out really cool.
Yeah, no, everything you showed me has been so rad.
Yeah, so. It's been a blast. It's going to be a fun product to get out there. I have some ideas for digital rewards that will be free for everybody that backs. That basically take the place of the really bougie deluxe edition stuff that I was looking at.
Yeah.
So, yeah, pretty much anything that I produce for the game, if you back at the digital tier, you're going to get all of it. Just the digital version of it, print it yourself. Yep. Whereas like you could back the physical zine and get the book and then all of the digital stuff on top of it. So, I'm looking at like producing foldable paper mini tents, like I was going to look at doing some cardboard stuff. I'm holding off on that right now, but like I'm going to create some cool stuff for the table, some printable, like, exploration hexes and stuff like that. Cause there's a whole exploration system that we didn't really dig into that I'm still working on. That is, it's probably going to be more point crawl than hex crawl. If you're familiar with the difference. That was actually going to be my next question. Yeah, I like both for different reasons. We'll see where it shakes out. Gotta decide soon here. I bet by the time this comes out, I already have that locked in. But
I mean, there's pros and cons to both. I'm partial to hex crawl. Especially recently after Astro Prisma and we got our digital copies of that. It's fun. Exploration.
You got to check out Perilous Wilds.
Perilous Wilds.
It's incredible. It was recommended by Adam. We did kind of like a little book club on it last week after Monday meeting with a bunch of other Tater Pig peoples. It was originally a Dungeon World supplement, but it's decoupled from it.
Yeah.
Nowadays, there's a revised edition, and it is maybe one of the best supplements I've ever read. I really, really believe that. And I only just read it, and it's all about exploration and finding ways to do minimal prep for like a hex crawl or a West Marches kind of thing. And really, really cool book that I'm pulling a lot of inspiration from. But yeah, so that's Out of Orbit. I am so incredibly excited. I think that I'm doing something fun with the mechanics, both of Entwine and with Microscope. I got to talk to Ben Robbins, like I mentioned, and he was able to give me some good advice on it. And I think that it's going to make for a unique experience at your table, which is really all I want. That's all I care about is you having the ability to run a game with your friends and go, whoa, we've never done that before.
Right.
And it'd be something special. So
there are things about it, like the flashback system. Like I've been playing so much The Zone lately. Like I've been playing it a lot, and so like that is one of the mechanics that you can pull from one of your mutation cards. Instead of getting a mutation, it's like you have a flashback to this very important moment in your character's life, and it's just like so good. And through it, we were able to build like the last time I played The Zone, I had goosebumps. Through the narrative that we were building.
I freaking love
that game. To incorporate that into the Entwine system for this, I am incredibly excited. I'm excited for settlement management. I am excited for the I already said flashbacks. The exploration, all of it is going to be a lot of what I think I look for in a indie TTRPG. And that is, it is not Dungeons and Dragons but it's closer to some of my favorite aspects of video games.
Yeah, totally.
Which is often what like my favorite thing about indies. So
I love hacking something from a video game and making it feel good at the table, because like that's the opposite of what happened originally, right?
Yeah, no,
it's like
exactly.
video games started coming out. They're like, what if we made role-playing games into, and that's like we had MUDs and all that. And it's like now people are like, how do I make Dark Souls the RPG? You know, how do I make all of that? So
you know, you take an OSR game and you make it brutal, and you have Dark Souls.
Yeah, but how do I roll?
Yeah.
Yeah, I need a spam
all
roll
the time for some reason. Well,
that's that.
Yeah,
that's the game.
Check it out down below. You can hit the notify at launch if you're listening to this in the month of February. It's live. If it's not the month of February yet, then it's not live. Are you going to be doing late pledges via?
That's the plan.
Kickstarter?
Yeah,
I think I've been thinking about it too, and I'm like, you know what? There's no reason not to. That's basically what we were using.
It's a pre-order in BackerKit. Yeah.
So awesome. Well,
I might be doing it over in BackerKit instead if I'm already using it. So I'm not sure for right now, but
it's hard.
You will be able to still get in on the project even if it's done. And this is February, or like if this is March 1st or something that you're listening.
Yeah, that's good, because like often like 3 months later you get that message of, oh my gosh, I wish your campaign was still going. I just saw it. So awesome. Well, looking forward to Out of Orbit. Check out the information down below. As always, is there anything that you would like to include?
No, I mean, basically just be staying tuned. Like, we're going to be talking to a lot of other people that are creating as a part of Zine Month, putting out awesome projects. We've got some friends lined up. We're just trying to get those recorded and pumped out. I know everybody's hard at work getting their Kickstarter page ready to go. There's a lot going on, but man, we're excited for February and the rest of the year. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So yeah, check out the link. Get notified on launch when Out of Orbit going live. DJ's project is also out. Resistance is required. Make sure you get notified on that. All of that is available at oneshotstavern.com. And you can check out more about my game specifically at andrewbowman.com. And that's it for us for today.